This tutorial, I'm going to show the introduction of how to use jQuery animate. jQuery animate has a great functionality, and it's really one of the most basic uh, functions of jQuery. And really, if you know only one function from jQuery, I would argue that the animate function is probably the most important to learn. Uh, anyway, for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do this. So all I do is have a quick listener for a click function, it's also in jQuery, and it just moves from here, and then when it finishes moving, moves back. You can see how it actually does change the inline style, and that's how jQuery does work. You can see that I'm using an ID of box, and I already have my CSS written to make it 100 pixels, 100 pixels, and then a background of red, and a position of relative. The position of relative or absolute or fixed is really important because then the left will work. I remove this, you'll see it doesn't work, but you can see it does change. Anyway, make sure you have that. That's some CSS knowledge, not really for this tutorial. Anyway, let's get started. We can look at what I have right now. I'm going to go through and rewrite this, uh, but just to explain exactly what we're doing, first we have a selector of the ID box to select our div. Then we have a listener for .click, and jQuery just has this out of the box. And within it, we call a function. And from that function, we call an animate function. And when the animate function finishes, we call another function. So let's redo this, and I'll go through each part of this. So we're going to do the selector, and we want to make sure we can click it. So we're writing our function within the click listener. So to make sure that works, let's write to the console, and we're going to say clicked. I'm going to save that, go back to this. Now let's go to our console and check if it works. You can see that it does say clicked. So we know it actually does work now. So now it's time to actually select it again and do an animate on it. Now, animate simply works like this. Now, if you look at the animate documentation on jQuery's website, there's a bunch more to do. I'm really just showing the basics. Now, the way it works is you have all you really need is one parameter. And that parameter is changing some CSS. In this case, we're changing the left attribute. And you basically put an array of parameters in here. And I'm going to put 500. Now, if you just put 500 and no units, you can see that it goes to pixels. Now, we only move this way, and we need to move back. So I'll show you that in a second. Now, let's say you want to do a percentage. Well, if you do this, it's not going to be right, and you'll get an error. So if you want to do a percentage, you can actually put it into quotes and do something like 50%. So let's try that. Refresh. You can see that now it's at 50%. If you want to make sure that you're using pixels, you can always do this as well. And that does work as well. Now, that's the one parameter. Now you can do actually multiple different things too. Like let's say I want to mix it with a top and a left to do, let's do like 300 so we have enough space. To do maybe a diagonal motion. So it'll go like this. You can see that works. And you can see that I'm actually adjusting two things at once, which is pretty cool. Now, for this tutorial, we're only going to use one parameter just so it's a little bit easier. The next thing that's important that a lot of times comes in effect is the timing. Now, I believe the default is something around like 350 milliseconds. Um, you should check that out on your own to make sure, but I like to define on my own. I like to do 500, which is a half a second. You can see that it's slightly slower. Now, you can also do 1000 or 1 second. You can see that now it's even slower. We're going to keep it at 500. Now, the other thing that the next parameter that they have out of the box is where it calls a function as soon as the animate function is done. So let's do that. So we're going to call a function, and we're going to write to the console again. And we're going to say animation has finished. And I'm going to do it at like 2 seconds, so then we can actually see when it finishes. So let's go over our console. I'm going to click this, so click it now, and then 2 seconds later it should appear. You see that it did appear. That's cool. So what that means is that now we're ready to move it back to where it was. So all we have to do is now reselect this again. And we're literally writing the same function within it. So we're going to do left. But instead of putting 300 here, we're going to put a 0. So it goes back to the default. Now we can do that. And we also want to put our timing mechanism. So let's change this over to 500 as well. Now we now have 2 500s, so the whole thing should be 1 second in total. So now I should go over here and then go back. I can click this as many times as I want. Now if you look at the actual inline style, you can also look over here if that's a little bit easier. You can see that it gradually changes it over time. Now this animate function has a bunch of different things. You can do pretty much every CSS every CSS parameter, which is really nice, and you can really experiment it with many different types of animations. And there's many different plugins for this. Check out the easing plugin. The easing plugin is really nice, which allows you to control whether it's a linear motion, if it's maybe a swing motion, where like the timing graph looks like an S or something. So I mean, you can actually see it over here. See how it's not 100% linear. It slows down at the sides because the motion is something like this. Anyway, you can look more into that on your spare time. This was just meant to be an introduction so you can have some understanding of how the jQuery animate function works. Hope this helps. Feel free to subscribe to my videos. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up on the bottom and tell me how you think in the comments. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.